Hello and happy Thursday already. This is Rochelle with Stampin' Up. It's been a long week. I wanted to touch base with you again and show you some wonderful things with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, the product of the week. First of all, I want to show you how compact it is. It's very small. It's actually only about 8 pounds, maybe a little bit over. And the platform folds up, so it makes transporting super simple. It works with all of the all of the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine folders. So the 3D embossing folders and the dies. Platforms fold out very easily, as you can see. The handle moves very smoothly, makes it very easy to crank either the dies or the embossing folders through. It is simple to use the sandwich plates. It comes with these plates here. I will show you each individually. So this is the base plate, and it gives you instructions, which is nice. It numbers each plate so that you know which plate is in the sandwich. This one shows you that when using thin dies, you will use plate 1, 2, and then sandwich between number 3. Then shows you using standard embossing folders and using the 3D embossing folders. This is the plate number 2, and this is for when you are using the thin dies or any of the dies that we have. So you would use the base plate, you would use like this shim, number 2, and then you would sandwich between the two cutting plates, which are number 3. These are the number 3 cutting plates. As you can see, they are numbered. Does not matter which way you use them. I tend to keep my cutting plate with the markings on the bottom and then use the top. Every now and then it'll kind of still come through. I don't know if you can see that, but it does kind of eventually mark up the cutting plate, but that is okay because this is what they're here for. And then this is the specialty plate, and this plate is for the embossing. So when you do the 3D embossing, you will use this specialty plate. It does remind you down here at the bottom that this is not a cutting surface. There is also a magnetic plate. I have just placed the order for mine. I have not received it yet, but I like the magnetic plate because it holds my dies in place and prevents them from moving around. You can also use washi tape and just attach the die to the paper. Let me pull out the examples I did earlier this week. So this one here is called Evergreen Forest. It's one of the 3D embossing folders. You can see it gives you multi-dimensional embossing, and the detail is amazing. And this one is called Woodland, and it is an embossing folder, but it's not the 3D. It's just a regular embossing folder. Still a lot of detail, just not as much as the 3D. This is one of the treat boxes that I cut out using one of the dies, and if you can see, the spider even has little embossing on its body. And then here's another example of the emboss and cut. So not only does it cut out the image or the design, it also does a nice little embossing on it as well, all in one step. Love it. Okay, so now what I'd like to show you is that you can still use this with the old embossing folders and the old dies. And then I'll also show you another example of using it with one of our new dies. Okay, so stay tuned while I grab some paper. So now I have some paper that I'm going to go ahead and run through the machine. I cut it just under 6 inches. The width of the platform is 6 inches. If you are interested in ordering the Stampin' Cut machine, the item number is 149653. That is for the standard size. This one is $120. There is a mini coming out. We just have not been given a release date yet, and that one will be $60, but it's only a 3.5 inch platform. So it's great if you're just doing cards and you want to, it's very versatile to take with you. So definitely nice to have. So this here is one of the older framelits. Back when they had the Big Shot. I used to have a Big Shot. I actually got rid of mine because I love how compact this is. I like how much room it saves just by collapsing these platforms. So this one here I'm just going to use as an example to show you can still use your old dies and embossing folders. So this is just the Framelits Cannery set. And I'm going to just go ahead and take the mason jar. And then the greatest thing is, let's say you haven't cut or embossed or stamped or anything in a while. I like having the directions right on the plate because it helps remind you. So this is a die. So all I have to do is see here for using with a thin die, I just need number 1, number 2, and then the 2 cutting plates. So I will set my specialty plate aside. Like I mentioned before, I like to always have my cutting plate face down. I then put my paper down, take my die and put that down. Now since I don't have the magnetic plate yet, if this was something that I really wanted to make sure stayed in place, a little trick is using washi tape. Just take a small piece. I usually try to de-stick it a little. And then just tape it down. And then it keeps it right in place where you want it. Now you just take your second cutting plate, place it on top. I usually just kind of give it a little gentle push towards the center, and then you just start cranking away. And as you can see, it's a very smooth, very easy process. It does not take a lot of strength to do the dies. I did notice it does take a little bit of oomph if you're going to do the 3D embossing. So here I just peel off my washi tape. Oops, stuck a little more than I preferred. And then there you go. Here's a nice little mason jar. So it works beautifully even with the old dies. Next I'm going to show you, let me put this up real fast. Next I'm going to show you how it works even with the old embossing folders. So again, I'm going to reference my plates for directions. So this is just a standard embossing folder, so I'm just going to use the base plate number 1 and then the 2 cutting plates number 3. I do not need the shim number 2. Place my number 2 or my number 3 plate down. And it's always a good idea to place your embossing folders hinge side into the machine. And then I'm going to place my second cutting plate on top, give it a little push into the beginning, and then just start cranking. So the embossing folders take a little more effort, but still not very bad. And then there we go. It is crinkled on the side because I did not trim it to fit the embossing folder, but I'm just trying to save time. There you go. You can see it still gives a very beautiful texture, and it works just the same. So now I want to go ahead and show you one of our new 3D embossing folders. Here's one of the newer embossing folders. It is 3D, and it does point out that it's 3D right on the package. You're also able to know right away as soon as you open it, because let me show you the difference. I don't know if you can see that, but the difference in the thickness is how you're also able to tell that it's a 3D plate. That is why for the 3D embossing folders, we just use the specialty plate. We don't need those 2 cutting plates. So again, I'm just going to take my plate, my base plate, make sure I'm using it correctly by double checking the instructions. So here it shows with the 3D embossing folder, I just need the base plate, number 1 and number 4. So there's my base plate. I'm going to take my embossing folder, and again, hinge side going into the machine first, and then put my specialty plate. Give it a little push. Crank through the machine. And then look at that. Beautifully embossed. Now, I don't know if you can see this really well, but the reason this is considered a 3D embossing is because the flowers actually stick up more than the leaves or the stems underneath. So beautiful embossing folder. I love this one. This is the Ornate Floral, and it's just such a beautiful background. Now, let me show you the cutting with the new dies. I'm going to use my favorite, the Celebrate Sunflowers, and I have the dies inside, and the die set is the sunflower dies. I'm just going to open this up. There we go. Don't mind those are just for my masking. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one here and do the leaf as well. Actually, let's use this one instead. Okay, so again, grab my base plate. And this tells me for using with dies, I'm going to use 1, 2, and 3. Here's my number 2. Here's my my cut up cutting plate. Then I'm going to take my paper. I'm going to set my die down, my other die down. And I won't mess with the washi tape this time because it's pretty much staying right where I want it. Now I take my next cutting plate, give it just a little push into this machine there at the beginning, and then just start cranking. I tend to always run it all the way through instead of going through and then bringing it back. That's just kind of what I've always done. Okay, so now, oops, it came off. This one is very delicate. But I just love the way it looks. I think it's just so pretty. Now this one here, as you can see, there's a lot of things to be punched out. They come out mostly pretty easy, but let me show you a trick. This is another one of my favorite tools. This is just a foam pad. This is the U-Pick tool, and it has an additional brush that you can purchase specifically for the purpose of getting all these little pieces to come out. It doesn't take much pressure, and as you can see, it's really quick work to just clean up all those little spots and pieces. And for the little center pieces or really tiny little pieces, you can always use the sharp end or the pointy side of the U-Pick tool. Okay, there we go. Now, push all those off to the side. So now there is our beautiful sunflower die cut. And our beautiful little sprig, or whatever these things are called. So as you can see, the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine works beautifully with the old dies and the old embossing folders, and it does a fantastic job with the new 3D embossing folders, the new regular embossing folders, and the new die cuts as well. So just to recap, this is the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and it folds up for easy storage and portability. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. It weighs only 8.1 pounds. It works with the old dies as well as our new dies, old folders as well as our new folders. It comes with all the plates that you need to get started. It comes with the base plate, which is plate number 1, one die plate, which is plate number 2, the 2 cutting plates, which are numbered plate 3, and then the 1 specialty plate, which is plate number 4. If you would like to order this, the order number or item number is 149653, and it is $120 US. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you would like to place an order, or if you need help placing an order. Here is my contact information. You can go to rochellewebb.stampinup.net, or you can even email me at rochellebell20@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stamping!